Next up on the National Geographic channel, we're going to Gus to learn more about ancient Aztec life.
Thanks, Max. In today's program, we'll be looking at the ancient Aztec Empire. We'll be looking at a range of things, from their day-to-day life, their social structure, and their rituals. But mainly, we'll be shedding light on how they fell and how the Spanish defeated them, and the Spanish's effects on their daily life. A long time ago, in between 1325 and 1345, lived a tribe that inhabited most of Central America and Mexico as we know it today. This tribe were renowned for their brutal human sacrifices, worshipping many gods, and even their incredibly harsh punishments for offenders. The Aztecs, although a powerful tribe, were very bizarre. They had many rituals, but the most common one, of course, human sacrifice. They cut open someone's chest and got their beating heart out and sacrificed it to the gods. Another strange trait of this tribe was they even sold their children as slaves. The Aztec social structure was very similar, if not the same, to many past systems that we have known. For example, it is almost identical to the medieval England feudal system. The ancient Aztec social structure was arranged into places called classes. At the bottom of these classes were the slaves, who had virtually no rights except they were not to be put to death for no reason. The next step up this structure were the farmers and women. They were to provide clothes, food, and other items to the whole empire. Another step up this structure were the nobles, who were appointed by the king and owned big chunks of land. And the final step up this structure was the king, who ruled over the entire empire and appointed nobles. In 1521, the Spanish leader, Hernan Cortes, came and claimed the Aztec land. The Aztec capital, Tenochtitlan, after 75 days of war, was taken over. The Spanish had fully taken over the Aztecs and taken them as slaves. This exerted some positive and negative effects on the Aztec Empire. As well as the Aztecs being taken over by the Spanish, they were also susceptible to European diseases that were brought over by the Spanish, like smallpox, which wiped out a further 75% of their population. The conquistadors were given big chunks of land and the people inhabiting them. But of course, they were not going to do the manual labour, as they were the nobility of New Spain. They in turn forced Aztecs and neighbouring indigenous tribes into slavery. Soon after these events, very unlike the Spanish, King Ferdinand called for the laws of Burgess. This virtually spelled out a fair treatment and a fair go for the natives and indigenous tribes. These were among the first rules in Europe, stating that fair treatment is a must for Aztecs and indigenous tribes. But these rules were later less relevant, as Aztecs and Spanish people started to marry, and Aztecs got more and more involved in leadership roles. The Spanish were living now in a modernized society. They were taught many farming techniques from the Spanish, and they were introduced to things like grain, bread, and sugar from the Spanish. On top of this, they were introduced to domestic animals and have made up the Mexican cuisine that we know today. But a big change for the Aztecs was their human sacrifices, like torture and cutting out people's heart, was completely abolished. Thank you for joining us on the program today. Unfortunately, that's all we have time for. But next week, we'll be looking into the world of the ancient Incas. But now, back to Max in the studio for the 6 o'clock news.
Thanks, Gus. Thanks for joining me with the 6 o'clock news. Now, in the news...